This is a Fox News alert. The House Intelligence Committee due to meet behind closed doors at this hour and could vote as soon as this evening on whether to release that secret memo that Republicans say shows surveillance abuses by the Obama administration, DOJ, and FBI. Keep it on Fox News for the latest developments on this breaking story. In other news, on Friday, after the New York Times reported that Hillary Clinton helped protect a senior advisor to her 2008 presidential campaign who was accused of sexually harassing a young subordinate, she responded, tweeting she was dismayed when it occurred, but heartened that the woman came forward. Meanwhile, a video surfaced over the weekend of Clinton thanking her supporters.
Hey, everyone. I just wanted to say thanks. Thanks for your feminism, for your activism, and all I can hope is you keep up the really important good work.
But then, things took an even more bizarre turn. Watch.
Let me just say this is directed to the activist supporting so let's go.
All right. Well, and it doesn't end there. Clinton resurfaced again during a surprise appearance during last night's Grammys, doing what else? Well, mocking President Trump.
He had a long-time fear of being poisoned. One reason why he liked to eat at McDonald's. Nobody knew he was coming, and the food was safely pre-made.
That's it. We've got it. That's the one.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
The Grammys in the bag?
In the bag.
All right, Kennedy, please decipher all of this for us.
Wow, what comedic genius. It's very funny because she's not the only Democrat that's trying to use a potty mouth in order to reach out to young voters.
Yes.
The great thing about young voters, though, is they're not reaching back to either party. They're not interested. And so when we hear these stories about Bernd Strider and how he was harassing a young staffer, Hillary Clinton, the champion of women, with her disingenuous tweets, coming out saying that she was so proud of the woman that she called her this week and to threaten her with legal action?
Right.
To somehow, maybe pay her off or imply that the woman was going to be protected to make sure she wouldn't come forward with more of the story. What it says to me is you have 4 people who were associated with the campaign, deeply entrenched, and there were senior staffers on the campaign who wanted Strider out of there, and he was not fired. He was not taken off the campaign. It shows me that you've got a lot of Democrats who are doing whatever they can to bury her, to make sure there's plenty of room for a full Democratic field in 2020 that does not include her name.
Very interesting because, yeah, they don't want to lose again because losing isn't fun, but winning is.
It is.
It is.
Yes. Let's talk about the Grammys.
You want to?
Yeah, which is short for grandmother. Last night's ratings, they dropped 10 million households. They lost 33% in the Prime demo. So wherever she goes, she loses. And I'm waiting for her to blame that on the Russians, that the Russians actually tinkered with the ratings. The interesting thing about the reading of the book, it wasn't just her. They had other musical artists. I think Cher did it. I think, I can't remember the other. Who?
Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg. So the excerpts were about Donald Trump being bored in meetings and about what he eats. So the height of hypocrisy, if you've ever read a tour writer of a pop star who demand, 5 bottles of champagne and a donkey. There's no more petulant, self-involved behavior than a pop star. So the funny thing is that they're like this. They'll demand the color of the furniture, the exact type of roses. Yeah. They are spoiled, rotten. So ridiculing Donald Trump because he gets bored in a meeting. That's like a crab calling me crabby. It's absolutely nuts. And then to top it off, so they're having a relevant discussion about sexual harassment, about the Me Too movement. And they include Hillary in this, who has protected a serial harasser now twice, her husband and the campaign guy that she overruled when they wanted him to fire. Plus, if you don't forget this is probably even worse, the fact that she said that the Charlie Hebdo victims had sparked their own murders by drawing Muhammad. So she's always blaming the victim. So the hypocrisy here is insane. There's a lot more going on there that there were certain they dedicated time to certain musical artists that passed away that had interesting backstories that would not fit into the Me Too movement.
I just hope Gutfeld never gets a hold of my rider. That could be very embarrassing. He's going to do one more thing.
All callers must be up.
Yes, can you imagine?
Wouldn't you love it, though, if
dry.
at the Grammys they also read from Shattered or Unlikable?
Right.
And some of those Hillary books that have painted an unflattering picture
Those
of
are the books they burn, Kennedy. They don't actually read them.
Fahrenheit 451.
I think Hillary cheapens the whole Me Too movement. Look what she's done. She's been credibly accused of covering up sexual misconduct on her husband's campaign,
Sure.
in her husband's White House. her own State Department, and now her own campaign. The people in her orbit, Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, Huma's husband, I'm not even going to say his name. And then, like you said, she's been married to
He's a wiener.
Serial sexual harassment. Exactly. But she's been a total hypocrite for so many years. Look, she said that Donald Trump was colluding with the Russians and then got caught paying a foreign agent to collude with the Russians. She said Trump wasn't going to accept the results of the election, then didn't accept the results of the election. She said Benghazi was about a YouTube video when she knew it was about terrorism. She had a terrible weekend. That tweet that she sent out was ridiculed by the right and the left. So she was forced into this weird video at dinner after a few drinks. And she said the bitches line, which was totally lame, trying to sound relevant. And then she gets wheelchaired out to this little stunt at the Grammys. Crooked Hillary tanks the ratings. She should have read the passage. Wasn't it Wolf who accused Nikki Haley of sleeping with President Trump to get to the top? Hillary didn't say anything about that. She forgot that passage.
Yes, and Nikki Haley was none too pleased about that. All right, so Juan, you seem a little bit expressionless for you during this montage here at the table.
Because
I was looking for a sign.
Sometimes, Kimberly, it's just too much. You just have to sit and listen because apparently nobody heard she lost the election.
True, you're right.
Including her.
She didn't hear it.
And apparently nobody knows about people on the Trump campaign using profanity or Scaramucci coming out with all kinds of awful statements about people. And suggesting that people perform unnatural sex acts.
I agree with you.
So, I mean, I don't know. But I guess this is one side of the political phrase. So let's go.
We're just saying
but
it was corny that she used the line, not that it was inappropriate language.
I'm just telling you that people all over on both sides use that
Kennedy
kind
actually
of
made
I wasn't offended by the words.
No, this is, look at, they're chirping now because they realize they've been stung.
No, you're not listening.
Okay. Let me just say, this to me is an example of, guess what? She's reading something comedic from Michael Wolff's book. America's reading the book. So how do you guess that that is somehow Hillary Clinton and evidence of her hypocrisy? My gosh, it's not written by a liberal. It was written by a conservative. And it's funny because guess what? They have won Grammys awards for book reading.
Right.
And so you have people reading from the Trump book. I think it was funny.
And you know what, Juan, you make a great point. She did lose. So, given the choice on October 16, would you rather be the president and have a bad book written about you, or would you rather be the loser on an awards show that is losing viewers? You would choose to be president and not her. So it is kind of a pathetic solo performance.
She would sell any member of her family.
She would.
Yeah,
But
so that's the
you're right. I'm agreeing
my
with you.
point. So all of a sudden,
The point-
instead, you guys are so in need of somebody to tear down and to whip up on because you can't defend Trump. You haven't mentioned Trump and the porn star. Oh, why don't we talk about that?
I do all the time.
It's not hypocritical that she read from the book,
I see.
Juan. It's hypocritical that she covered up a sexual harassment scandal in her own campaign when she's supposed to be the leader of this Me Too movement.
Stick to the facts.
Wait, what did she do?
Those are the facts.
She can make a
Those are the
right-wing
facts.
case without lying. And this,
I'm not lying. What did she do with the woman?
Up.
What did she do with the woman who accused the guy of sexually harassing?
She
All right, so
Hold on. Let me get Kennedy back in
No,
here.
hang on. Let me finish.
Juan, we've been letting you filibuster
People
here.
came to her and said, you know what, this guy's behaved inappropriately. We think you should let him go. She said, you know what, let's get this guy into treatment. And it's a good thing the young woman came
Yeah, the
forward,
treatment should
allow
work
her
because when
to have a choice. She went
Kennedy
to
talked
another
about
one.
She didn't give the woman a choice.
Correct the record. When he went there, he only lasted a few months because he did the exact same thing. So the treatment didn't exactly work. So a woman,
I don't think he even went.
The woman who sprains her arm, patting herself on the back for listening to women and saying, we all deserve to be heard. All those voices deserve to be heard unless they're people who have accused her husband or people around her of sexual impropriety.
I think people defend their families in the husband's case. But in this case, I think you should not go full bore and say, oh, just because someone's charged, you know what, let's have fair process. Even in big companies, Kennedy, people are allowed to speak and defend themselves.
Well, look at how she...
This guy...
So you think Hillary did the right thing?
I
think Hillary did the right thing?
I think Hillary Clinton took the appropriate and legal steps. If you're asking me, should she...
Against the advice of her campaign chairwoman who said they should be immediately fired.
That's fine. But I think that ultimately this is a point where conservatives score because it looks like liberal hypocrisy. I would just point out that when we discussed this a week ago...
Conservatives aren't scoring. You scored on yourself.
No. When we were discussing this last week, I thought this had taken place in the 2016 campaign. It turns out this is back to 2008.
Well, it doesn't make it okay whether it happened in 2008 or it happened last week.
It's a wholly different
after what the
circumstance.
nation had been through in light of her husband's sexual
No, this
proclivities.
is, believe me,
I think we know enough in 2008 to shield people like
I
that.
think you're stretching because I don't think there's any doubt this
really
is a
think
hashtag Me Too moment in America right now that we've never seen.
Yes, and you know, a woman who's running for president knows better than pretty much everyone else in the country.
It's an
especially how to protect other women, or at least she should, especially if she claims to.
Yeah, well, her record is not stellar, to say the least, in this area. And that's why it says Hillary's hypocrisy, because as it relates to protection of women and sexual assault and sexual harassment, obviously she missed all of those scattered teachable moments that her husband tossed out in front of her.
Oh, that's what you're after, the husband. So you're not really even talking about
I'm talking about Hillary Clinton. Read the A block. What does it talk about here? Sexual harassment in 2008 and the advisor and her history of treatment against women.
For you guys to beat up on, so you don't have to talk about Trump.
One last point. You know, we're talking about seeing all these arenas expressing gender equality, and it's very touching to see. But who expresses gender equality more? Would you say Fox News, or would you say the music industry or the Grammys? The Grammys awarded 70% of their award winners were women. Most of the women there weren't allowed solo performances,
Lorde
right?
was not. She was nominated for Album of the Year. The only person nominated who was not invited to.
No, she wasn't invited. She chose
not to sing a solo performance.
Correct, not to sing solo. So she was invited.
Well,
my
point is,
the way her male counterparts were.
Okay.
There were a lot of opportunities there there's a lot of hypocrisy. Ed Sheeran was nominated with 4 other women. He beat those 4 other women.
Oh, wow.
Instead, they had.
And he also won the Grammy.
Oh, I saw that terrible joke coming. Anyway, my point is 70% of the awards were won by women, and they can't lecture us anymore. I'm sorry. I think these award shows have to take a time out. There's too many of them. They're trapped in their own myopic, emotional world, and they don't understand what America is seeing. We just look at this and we're going, shut up. We just want to see the bands.
Okay, myopic, excellent use of the word, and also your pronunciation was spot on.
Thank you.
This pleases me.